When she walked back into his life after 6 months of silence, she brought more than just an explanation. She brought a secret that would change everything, and a little girl who would teach them both what family really means. The rain hit, the window like tiny fingers tapping for attention. Alex sat hunched over his laptop, squinting at the screen in the dim light of his small apartment. The coffee mug beside him had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. Bills were piling up on his desk, and this design project was his lifeline. One more logo, one more client happy, one more step away from having to move back in with his parents. The apartment felt too quiet. It had been this way for months now, ever since she left. The silence used to comfort him, but now it just reminded him of what was missing. The sound of someone humming in the kitchen, laughter from the couch during movie nights, even the gentle arguments about which restaurant to order from on lazy Sunday evenings. Alex rubbed his tired eyes and tried to focus on the computer screen. The logo he was designing looked terrible. Nothing seemed to work anymore. His creativity had dried up the day Mia walked out that door. She had taken her books, her plants, and somehow all his inspiration with her. The knock on the door came at exactly 11:47 p.m. Alex knew the time because he had been staring at the clock in the corner of his screen, wondering if he should just give up for the night. The sound was soft but familiar. 3 taps, pause, 2 more taps. His heart stopped. Only one person knocked like that. Alex froze, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. Maybe he had imagined it. Maybe he was so tired that his mind was playing tricks on him. But then it came again. The same rhythm, the same gentle insistence. He walked to the door on unsteady legs. Through the small peephole, he could see a figure in the hallway. The lighting was dim, but he would recognize that silhouette anywhere. Long hair pulled back, the way she always wore it when she was nervous. A dark coat that looked soaked through. It was Mia. Alex pressed his forehead against the cool door and closed his eyes. 6 months. 6 months of wondering where she went, if she was okay, if she ever thought about him. 6 months of writing text messages he never sent. 6 months of walking past places they used to go together, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, familiar face. Another knock, more urgent this time. His hand trembled as he reached for the lock. What was he supposed to say? How was he supposed to act? Should he be angry? Happy? He had imagined this moment so many times, but now that it was happening, his mind went completely blank. The lock clicked open. The door swung wide. Mia stood in the hallway, rainwater dripping from her coat onto the worn carpet. She looked different. Thinner, maybe. There were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there before. Her usually perfect hair was messy from the rain, but it was definitely her. Same green eyes that used to light up when she laughed. Same small scar on her chin from when she fell off her bike as a kid. In her hands, she clutched a large manila envelope. The paper was slightly damp from the rain, and her knuckles were white from gripping it so tightly. "Hi, Alex," she said quietly. Her voice was exactly the same, but something in her tone was different, more serious, more careful. "Mia." The word came out as barely a whisper. He cleared his throat and tried again. "What are you doing here?" She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, the way she always did when she was nervous. "Can I come in? Please? I know it's late, and I know you probably don't want to see me, but I really need to talk to you." Alex stepped aside without thinking. His body seemed to move on its own, muscle memory from all those times she had come home late from work or from visiting friends. She walked past him into the living room, and he caught a whiff of her shampoo, the same kind she had always used. It made his chest ache. Mia looked around the apartment slowly. Her eyes took in the empty pizza boxes on the counter, the pile of clothes on the chair, the dishes in the sink that he had been meaning to wash for 3 days. Through the open bedroom door, she could probably see the unmade bed and the stack of books on her old side of the nightstand that he still couldn't bring himself to move. "The place looks," she started, then stopped herself. "Like a mess?" Alex finished. "Yeah, well, I've been busy." It wasn't entirely true. He had been busy, But mostly he had been avoiding taking care of himself, avoiding doing all the little things that used to matter when someone else shared this space with him. Mia turned to face him, and for a moment, they just stared at each other. The envelope crinkled slightly in her hands. "Why are you here, Mia?" Alex asked again. His voice came out harder than he intended, but 6 months of hurt and confusion were sitting heavy in his chest. "You left. You packed your stuff and walked out without even telling me where you were going. No note, no explanation, no goodbye. Just gone." She flinched at his words, but she didn't look away. I know how it must have looked. How it must have felt. But I need you to understand that I had reasons." "Reasons?" Alex felt his anger rising. "What reasons could possibly make you disappear like that? I thought something had happened to you. I called your friends, your family. Nobody would tell me anything. I asked them not to." Mia's voice was so quiet he almost didn't hear her. "I asked them to let me handle this my way." "Handle what? What are you talking about?" Instead of answering, Mia walked over to the small dining table where he ate his meals alone now. She pulled out one of the wooden chairs. The legs scraped against the hardwood floor with a sound that seemed too loud in the quiet apartment. Alex watched, confused as she positioned the chair so it was facing the living room, facing him. Then she sat down, placed the envelope carefully on her lap, and looked directly into his eyes. She didn't say anything. She just sat there, waiting. The silence stretched between them like a bridge neither of them knew how to cross. Outside, a car door slammed. Somewhere in the building, a television was playing too loud. The rain kept falling against the window. But in his living room, time seemed to stop. Mia sat in that chair, her hands folded over the mysterious envelope, her green eyes locked on his, waiting for something. Waiting for his reaction to something he didn't even understand yet. Alex felt his heart hammering in his chest. Whatever was in that envelope, whatever had brought her back here on a rainy night after 6 months of silence, he had the feeling it was going to change everything. The silence in the room felt heavy, like a thick blanket that neither of them wanted to lift. Alex stood frozen near the kitchen counter, his hands gripping the edge so tightly his knuckles had turned white. Mia sat in that wooden chair, her back straight, her eyes never leaving his face. He had forgotten how intense her stare could be. When they were together, she used to look at him like that when she was trying to figure out what he was thinking. During their fights, during their quiet moments, during those lazy morning conversations when they would lie in bed and talk about everything and nothing. But this was different. This stare had weight behind it, like she was carrying something, heavy and trying to decide if he was strong enough to help her carry it. Alex noticed things he had missed in his shock at seeing her. There was a thin gold band on her ring finger that definitely hadn't been there before. It wasn't a wedding ring, too simple for that, but it meant something. Everything about Mia meant something. She never wore jewelry unless it had a story. There was also a small scar above her left eyebrow that he didn't remember. It looked recent, maybe a few months old. What had happened to her? Where had she been all this time? Her breathing was slow and measured, like she was doing those meditation exercises she used to practice when she got stressed about work. In and out, counting silently. She had taught him the technique once, but he could never stick with it long, enough for it to help. The envelope on her lap seemed to glow in the dim light from his desk lamp. It was thick, stuffed full of papers or photographs or whatever secrets she had brought back with her. One corner was bent, like she had been carrying it around for a while. Alex's phone buzzed on the coffee table, making them both jump slightly. The screen lit up with a text message from his client asking about the logo design. The words seemed ridiculous now. How was he supposed to care about fonts and color schemes when Mia was sitting in his living room after vanishing from his life? He ignored the phone. It buzzed again, then went silent. "You always were terrible at ignoring work," Mia said softly. It was the first thing she had said since asking to come in, and her voice sounded different. Older, maybe. More tired. "Yeah, well, work is all I have now," Alex replied, then immediately regretted how bitter he sounded. Something flickered across Mia's face. Pain, maybe. Or guilt. She reached down and touched the envelope lightly like she was making sure it was still there. "Alex," she started, then stopped. She took another one of those deep, measured breaths. "I need to show you something, but first I need you to know that everything I'm about to tell you, everything I did, it was because I love you." His heart did that familiar skip it always did when she said those words. Even now, even after 6 months of silence and hurt and wondering if he would ever see her again, loved, he corrected quietly. Past tense, right? You left, Mia. People who love each other don't just disappear. She shook her head. No. Present tense. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. The words hung in the air between them. Alex felt his anger and his hope fighting, each other in his chest. He wanted to believe her, but he also wanted to protect himself from getting hurt again. Then why? He asked. Why did you leave like that? We were talking about moving in together permanently. About getting a bigger place. About maybe getting a dog, and then one day I came home and you were gone. Your stuff was gone. Like you had never existed. Mia's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. She had always been good at holding back tears, even when they were watching sad movies together. Because I was scared, she whispered. Because I found out something that changed everything and I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to ask you to deal with it. So you decided for me? Alex's voice was getting louder despite himself. You decided I couldn't handle whatever it was, so you just left? That's not how relationships work, Mia. That's not how love works. I know. The words came out like a sob, even though she still wasn't crying. I know I handled it wrong. I know I hurt you. But I thought it would be easier for you if I just disappeared. If you could move on and find someone who could give you the life you deserved. Alex stared at her. In all his imagining about what he would say if he ever saw her again, he had never considered this, that she had left to protect him from something, that her leaving had been an act of love, however misguided. The heating unit in the apartment kicked on with a low hum, filling the silence. Outside, a car alarm went off briefly, then stopped. Through the thin walls, he could hear Mrs. Patterson next door watching her late-night talk shows. The sound of canned laughter drifted through, making their serious conversation feel even more surreal. Mia shifted in the chair, and the envelope crinkled again. Whatever was inside, whatever had brought her back, she was getting ready to show him. I went to Guatemala, she said suddenly. After I left, I took that photography job I told you about, the one documenting the refugee crisis, remember? You said it sounded dangerous. Alex remembered. They had argued about it. He had been worried about her safety, traveling to unfamiliar places, working in potentially unstable situations. She had accused him of not supporting her career dreams. It had been one of their bigger fights, but they had worked through it like they always did. Or so he had thought. You left me to take a job? The hurt in his voice was plain. No, Mia said quickly. I took the job because I had already decided to leave. Because I needed to go somewhere far away where I could figure out what to do. Where I could... She trailed off, looking down at the envelope. Where you could what? She looked back up at him, and for the first time since she had arrived, her composure cracked slightly. Her hands were shaking as she held the envelope. Where I could decide whether to fight or give up, she said. Mia's hands stopped shaking as she slowly opened the manila envelope. The sound of paper rustling seemed too loud in the quiet apartment. Alex watched, his heart beating so fast he was sure she could hear it. She pulled out the first document and placed it on the small coffee table between them. Even upside down, Alex could see it was some kind of medical report, official letterhead from a hospital he didn't recognize. Mia's name was printed clearly at the top. 6 months ago, Mia said, her voice steadier now. I started getting sick, really sick. At first I thought it was just stress from work, or maybe the flu that was going around, but it didn't get better. Alex felt his stomach drop. He moved. Closer, perching on the edge of his couch so he could see the papers better. The medical terminology was confusing, but he could make out enough to understand this was serious. The doctors ran tests for weeks, Mia continued, pulling out more documents. Blood work, scans, more blood work. I kept telling myself it was nothing, that I was just run down. But deep down I knew something was really wrong. She placed a photograph on top of the medical papers. It showed her in a hospital bed, looking pale and thin with IV tubes in her arm. Alex had never seen that photo before. He had never seen her look so fragile. "This was taken the day I got the diagnosis," she said quietly. "Autoimmune condition. Basically, my body was attacking itself. The doctors said it was rare, and they weren't sure how aggressive it would be." Alex's hands were shaking now too. "Mia, why didn't you tell me? We could have faced this together. I would have been there for every appointment, every treatment, everything." "I know you would have." She pulled out more papers, spreading them across the table like puzzle pieces. "That's exactly why I couldn't tell you. Look at these." The next set of documents looked different. Treatment plans, medication lists, cost, estimates. Alex's eyes widened as he saw the numbers. Thousands of dollars. Tens of thousands. "The treatment is expensive," Mia said, following his gaze. "Really expensive. And at first the doctors weren't even sure it would work. They gave me different percentages, different timelines. Some were hopeful, others weren't." Alex looked up from the papers to her face. She was watching him carefully, like she was afraid of his reaction. "So you left because you were sick?" he asked. "Because you thought I couldn't handle it?" "I left because I didn't want you to watch me die," she said simply. "I didn't want your last memories of me to be hospital rooms and treatments that might not work. I didn't want you to spend your savings on medical bills for someone who might not make it anyway." The words hit Alex like a punch to the chest. All those months of wondering if she had stopped loving him, if she had found someone else, if he had done something wrong. And all along, she had been fighting for her life and trying to protect him at the same time. "But that wasn't your decision to make," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Don't you understand? I would rather have been there, even if—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Mia nodded, tears finally starting to fall down her cheeks. "I know. I know that now. But at the time I was so scared. I was 28 years old and facing the possibility that I might have months instead of years. I wasn't thinking clearly." She reached into the envelope again and pulled out a thick stack of photographs. These were different from the medical ones. Colorful, vibrant images of people and places Alex didn't recognize. "After I left, after I started treatment, I took that job in Guatemala," she said, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "I figured if I was going to fight this thing, I wanted to do something meaningful while I was fighting. Something that mattered." The photographs were stunning. Alex could see immediately that they weren't just snapshots. These were the work of a professional. Someone who knew how to capture not just images but emotions. Children laughing despite difficult circumstances. Families holding each other close. Hope in the midst of struggle. "These are incredible," Alex said softly, picking up one of the photos. "Mia, this is some of your best work." "The news agency loved them," she said, a small smile breaking through her tears. "They ended up publishing a whole series. It won a journalism award last month." She pulled out a letter from the stack of papers. Alex could see it was from a major publishing company. "They want to make it into a book," Mia continued. "The photographs, along with the stories of the people I met. It's going to be called Finding Light. The advance they're paying will cover my medical expenses for the next 2 years." Alex stared at the letter, then back at the photographs, then at Mia. "This is amazing. You're amazing. But Mia, what about your health? How are you doing now?" She pulled out the most recent medical report. This one looked different from the others, less scary somehow. "The treatment is working," she said, and for the first time since she had arrived, her smile was genuine. "Better than the doctors expected. I'm not cured, and I'll probably need to manage this condition for the rest of my life. But the rest of my life is looking a lot longer than it did 6 months ago." Alex felt relief wash over him like a wave. She was okay. She was going to be okay. But mixed with the relief was a deep sadness for all the time they had lost, all the fear and uncertainty she had faced alone. "There's something else," Mia said quietly. She reached into the envelope one more time and pulled out what looked like official legal documents. Alex's chest tightened again. "What now?" "While I was in Guatemala, I met a family," Mia began. "A mother and her 7-year-old daughter who were trying to cross the border. The mother was sick too, sicker than I was. She didn't make it." Alex's heart sank. He could see where this was going. "The little girl had no one else," Mia continued. "No relatives who could take her. No safe place to go. The refugee organization was trying to place her in foster care, but the system there is overwhelmed." She spread out the legal documents. Adoption papers. Immigration forms. A small school photo of a little girl with dark eyes and a shy smile. "Her name is Luna," Mia said. "She's 8 now, and she's been living with me for the past 3 months." Alex stared at the photograph of the little girl. This changed everything. Everything. Mia wasn't just back to tell him about her illness and her recovery. She was back to tell him that she was now responsible for a child. "She's in the car," Mia said quietly. "With Mrs. Patterson. Your neighbor offered to watch her for an hour while I talked to you." Alex looked toward the window as if he could see through the walls to the parking lot below. There was a little girl down there. A little girl who had lost her mother, who had been through more trauma in her short life than most adults ever face. "Mia," he said slowly. "What are you asking me?" She took a deep breath, the kind she used to take before asking him something important, before asking if he wanted to move in together, before asking if he could see a future with her. "I'm asking if there's any chance," she said. "Any possibility at all that we could try again. All 3 of us. I know it's a lot. I know I have no right to ask this after what I did. But Luna needs stability, and I need to know if the person I love most in the world could love us both." Alex looked at the papers scattered across his coffee table. Medical reports, award letters, adoption documents, photographs of strangers who had become family, evidence of a life lived fully even in the face of uncertainty. And in the middle of it all, Mia sat in that wooden chair, waiting for his reaction to the question that would determine all their futures. Alex's hands were shaking as he walked to the kitchen. He needed something to do with them, something normal and ordinary, while his world turned upside down. The coffee maker gurgled to life, filling the silence with a familiar sound that somehow made everything feel less surreal. Through the small kitchen window, he could see Mrs. Patterson's porch light glowing in the courtyard below. Somewhere down there was a little girl who had lost her mother, a little girl who was waiting to see if her life was about to change again. "Tell me about her," Alex said quietly, not turning around from the coffee maker. He wasn't ready to look at Mia yet, wasn't ready to see the hope and fear mixing together in her eyes. "She loves to draw," Mia said from behind him. "Just like you do. When I first met her, she was sitting in this tiny refugee shelter drawing pictures on scraps of paper with a broken crayon someone had given her." Alex heard the rustling of papers and knew Mia was looking through the photographs again. "She drew her mother," Mia continued, her voice soft, "over and over. Different pictures of the same woman, like she was trying to make sure she wouldn't forget what she looked like. The aid workers said she hadn't spoken much since her mother passed, but she would draw for hours." The coffee finished brewing with a final splutter. Alex poured 2 cups, adding sugar to Mia's the way she liked it. Some habits were hard to break, even after 6 months. "What language does she speak?" he asked, bringing the cups over to where Mia sat. "Spanish, mostly. A little bit of English that she learned from volunteers at the shelter. She's smart, Alex. Really smart. She picks up new words fast when she feels safe enough to try." Alex handed Mia her coffee and noticed her hands were steadier now. Talking about Luna seemed to calm her down, the way talking about her photography always used to. "Where has she been staying?" he asked. "With me," Mia said. "I have a small apartment, across town. It's not much, but it's better than the alternatives the system could offer. She has her own room, her own bed. I enrolled her in a local school where some of the teachers speak Spanish. Alex sat down on the couch, cradling his coffee cup. The hot ceramic warmed his hands, which still felt cold despite the apartment's heating. Mia, he said carefully, I need to understand something. When you left 6 months ago, you made that decision without talking to me. Now you're asking me to help you make another life-changing decision. How do I know you won't just disappear again if things get hard? The question hung in the air between them. Mia set down her coffee cup and looked directly at him. Because I learned something these past 6 months, she said. I learned that trying to protect people by pushing them away doesn't actually protect anyone. It just creates more pain for everyone involved. She pulled out her phone and showed him a photo. It was Luna, sitting at a small table covered with art supplies, concentrating intensely on a drawing. Look at what she drew last week, Mia said, swiping to the next photo. The drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands. One was tall with short hair, one was medium-sized with long hair, and one was small with pigtails. Above them, Luna had written, My Familia in careful block letters. My family, Mia translated quietly. She drew this before I told her I was coming to see you. She just drew it on her own. Alex stared at the picture. The little stick figures looked so hopeful, so innocent. This child who had lost everything was already dreaming of having a family again. What does she know about me? He asked. I told her about you when she asked why I sometimes looked sad, Mia said. I explained that there was someone important to me who I had hurt by leaving, and that I wasn't sure if he would forgive me. She asked if you were kind, and I said yes. She asked if you would like her drawings, and I said I thought you would. Love them. Alex felt something tight in his chest. What did she say to that? She said she hoped you would want to meet her someday, because she has a lot of drawings to show you. The simple honesty of it broke something open in Alex's heart. This little girl who had been through so much loss was still hoping for connection, still believing in the possibility of family. I'm scared, Mia, Alex admitted. I'm scared of not being good enough for her. What do I know about taking care of a kid? What do I know about helping someone heal from that kind of trauma? Nobody knows until they try, Mia said. The social worker told me that Luna doesn't need perfect parents. She just needs people who care about her and won't give up on her. Alex thought about his small apartment, barely big enough for one person. He thought about his struggling freelance business, the bills on his desk, the uncertainty of his future. Where would we live? He asked. This place is too small for 3 people. I've been looking at apartments, Mia said. With the book advance and my photography work, I can cover most of the rent. You wouldn't have to carry all the financial pressure alone. And your treatment? There's a good clinic here in town. My doctor in Guatemala helped me find a specialist who can continue my care. The treatment is manageable now that we know what works. Alex walked back to the window and looked down at the courtyard again. Mrs. Patterson was sitting on her porch with a small figure beside her. Even from 3 floors up, he could see Luna's dark hair gleaming under the porch light. She was holding something in her hands, probably one of her drawings. Can I meet her? Alex asked suddenly, surprising himself. Not as a commitment to anything, just to meet her. Mia's face lit up for the first time all evening. Really? Really. But Mia, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that whatever happens, whatever I decide, you won't disappear again. Promise me that even if I can't be what you need, you'll still be in my life somehow. I can't go through losing you again. Mia stood up and walked over to where he stood by the window. She reached out slowly and took his hand. I promise, she said. No more running away. No more trying to protect you from life. If we do this, we do it together. All the messy and scary parts included. Alex squeezed her hand and looked down at Luna again. The little girl had stood up and was showing Mrs. Patterson whatever she had been holding. Even from a distance, Alex could see her animated gestures, the way she seemed to come alive when she was sharing her art. Okay, he said quietly. Let's go meet her. 3 weeks later, Alex woke up to the sound of quiet humming coming from the kitchen. For a moment he lay still in bed, wondering if he was dreaming. The apartment had been silent for so long that any sound felt like a small miracle. He sat up and looked around his bedroom, taking in all the changes. Mia's clothes were hanging in the closet again, mixed in with his own. Her books were back on the nightstand, though now they shared space with Spanish-English dictionaries and parenting guides. On the dresser there was a small framed drawing of a house with 3 stick figures standing in front of it, signed Luna, in careful 8-year-old handwriting. The humming continued from the kitchen, accompanied by the gentle clatter of dishes. Alex pulled on a t-shirt and padded barefoot down the short hallway. Luna was standing on a step stool at the counter, carefully arranging sliced bananas on top of a bowl of cereal. She was wearing the purple pajamas Mia had bought for her, and her dark hair was pulled back in 2 neat braids. When she heard Alex's footsteps, she turned and gave him a shy smile. "Buenos dias, Alex," she said, the words coming out slowly but clearly. "Good morning, Luna," Alex replied, still amazed at how natural this felt. 3 weeks ago he had been living alone, talking to no one but his clients on the phone. Now his mornings started with a little girl practicing her English and making breakfast. Mia emerged from the bathroom, her hair still damp from the shower. She was wearing scrubs for her part-time job at the local photography studio, and she looked healthier than she had in months. The treatment was working, and having a stable home seemed to be helping both her and Luna heal. "She wanted to make breakfast for all of us," Mia said, kissing Alex on the cheek before ruffling Luna's hair. "We're having cereal with banana art." Luna beamed with pride and pointed to her creation. She had arranged the banana slices to look like a smiley face on top of the cereal. It was such a simple thing, but Alex felt his heart swell at the pure joy on her face. "It's perfect," he told her, and watched her smile grow even bigger. They had developed routines over the past few weeks. Luna would wake up first and draw quietly at the kitchen table while Mia got ready for work. Alex would make coffee for the adults and help Luna with breakfast. In the evenings, they would work on Luna's English homework together, with Alex helping her with pronunciation while Mia translated the harder concepts. The apartment was still small, but they had made it work. Luna slept in what used to be Alex's office on a twin bed surrounded by her artwork and a few stuffed animals the neighbors had brought over. Alex had moved his work setup to one corner of the living room. It wasn't ideal, but it was temporary. They had been looking at larger apartments, and Mia's book advance would let them move somewhere with enough space for everyone. After breakfast, Luna disappeared into her room and came back with a thick folder full of drawings. This had become part of their morning routine too. She would show Alex whatever she had worked on the night before, explaining each picture in her mixture of Spanish and English. "This is you," she said, pointing to a stick figure with spiky hair holding what looked like a computer. "You are working on the She looked to Mia for help. "Logo," Mia supplied. "Logo," Luna repeated carefully. "And this is Mia taking pictures." She pointed to another stick figure holding a camera. "And this is me at school with my new friend Katie." Alex studied each drawing carefully. Luna's art had changed over the weeks. The early pictures had been mostly of her mother, drawn from memory and careful detail. But lately she had started drawing scenes from her new life, the 3 of them eating dinner together, Luna and Alex working on puzzles, family movie nights on the couch. "These are amazing, Luna," Alex said, and meant, "You're getting really good at drawing people." Luna's English was improving every day. She was naturally curious, always asking what things were called and repeating new words until she got them right. Alex had started carrying around a small notebook where he would write down new vocabulary words for her, complete with little pictures to help her remember. "Alex," Luna said suddenly, her voice more serious than usual, "can I ask you something important?" "Of course," Alex said, settling into the chair across from her at the table. Luna looked down at her hands, then back up at him. Do you think maybe someday I could call you Papa Alex?" The question hit Alex like a gentle wave. He had been wondering when this moment would come, but he still wasn't prepared for how it would feel. This little girl, who had lost her father before she could remember him, who had watched her mother die, was asking if she could consider him family. He looked over at Mia, who was watching from the doorway with tears in her eyes. They had talked about this possibility, but hearing Luna ask it herself was different. "Luna," Alex said carefully, "calling someone Papa is very special. It means you think of them as family." Luna nodded seriously. "I know." Mia explained it to me. She said that families can be made in different ways. Some people are born into families, and some people choose their families. "That's right," Alex said. "I want to choose you," Luna said simply. "You help me with homework. You make me laugh when I'm sad. You listen to my stories about my drawings. You don't get mad when I mix up English words. That's what papas do, right?" Alex felt tears prick at his eyes. 3 weeks ago, he had been a single man with no idea how to take care of a child. Now this brave little girl was telling him he had somehow become the father figure she needed. "Yes," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "That's exactly what papas do. And yes, Luna, I would be honored if you called me Papa Alex." Luna's face broke into the biggest smile Alex had ever seen from her. She jumped up from her chair and ran around the table to hug him, nearly knocking him over in her enthusiasm. "Papa Alex," she said, testing out the words. "Papa Alex, Papa Alex." Mia came over and wrapped both of them in her arms. For a moment, they just stood there in the small kitchen, holding each other like they were afraid this happiness might disappear if they let go. "I love you both so much," Mia whispered. "We love you too," Alex said, and realized it was completely true. Somehow, in 3 short weeks, this little girl had become as important to him as breathing. Later that evening, after Luna had gone to bed, Alex and Mia sat together on the couch looking at apartment listings on his laptop. Luna had insisted on helping earlier, pointing out which places had good lighting for drawing and which ones had yards where they could maybe get a dog someday. "Are you happy?" Mia asked quietly, leaning against Alex's shoulder. Alex thought about the question. 3 weeks ago, his life had been predictable but empty. Now it was chaotic and full of challenges he never could have imagined. Luna still had nightmares sometimes. Mia's medical appointments took up entire afternoons. The apartment was cluttered with toys and art supplies and homework assignments. His work schedule had to revolve around school pickup times and bedtime routines. But every morning he woke up to the sound of Luna humming in the kitchen. Every evening they sat around the dinner table sharing stories from their day. Every night Luna gave them both goodnight hugs and told them about her plans for tomorrow's drawings. "I'm terrified and exhausted and completely out of my depth," Alex said honestly, "and I've never been happier in my life." Mia smiled and kissed his cheek. "Good," she said, "because this is just the beginning." Through the thin walls of the apartment, they could hear Luna talking quietly to herself in her room, probably narrating a story to go with whatever she was drawing. In a few months, they would move to a bigger place where Luna could have friends. Over and Mia could set up a proper darkroom for her photography. Alex would finally have a real office again, and maybe they would get that dog Luna kept talking about. But for now, this small apartment full of artwork and laughter and the daily chaos of building a family was exactly where they were supposed to be. Outside, it was raining again, just like it had been the night Mia came back. But this time the sound was comforting rather than lonely. This time they were listening to it together.